The leadership of the National Assembly and some legislators, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, some ministers and aides of the president. They are in the State House for the signing into law of 4 tax reform bills by President Bola Tinubu. The bills are signed without much ceremony. Speaking afterwards, the president says the occasion signals a new dawn for the country.
We are in transit. We have changed the rule. We have changed some of the misgivings. We have opened the door for new economy, business opportunity. We are showing that Nigeria is truly, truly ready and open for business.
The chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum salutes what he terms a major reform.
The states have seen tremendous increase in resources since the reforms have begun, and a lot more will be seen with this new tax reform bill.
This commendation continues when State House correspondents are briefed by some of the guests.
I believe that with consultations and the painstaking nature of the legislative processes that we've taken, I believe we brought out bills that seek the aspirations of Nigerians.
I think that at the end of the day, by next year, when this thing starts to roll in, the subnationals again should be expecting an increase in their monthly revenue, which we know that it should be to the benefits of Nigerians at their various homes and local governments.
These 4 bills are said to be for the people's benefit.
These reforms are not about raising more taxes. I think people get it wrong. These tax laws, they are now laws, are pro-poor in particular. More than 1/3 of workers in both the private and public sector will now be exempted completely from PAYE. You will not have to pay personal income tax. What this means is that there will be more money in the hands of the ordinary Nigerian to take care of their daily needs.
We have full 6 months for both sensitization, planning, and also considering the fiscal year of the government. Because when you have this kind of change, it's not what you do mid-year, because if the application of law is better, you start from the beginning of the year. So effective dates, by God's grace, will be 1st of January 2026.
So as one journey ends, another journey begins. Now, the expectation going forward is that the implementation phase will be completed right when it should, on the 1st of January 2026. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. I'm sure that if you ask what Nigerians will talk about most next year, there's going to be an argument between 2027 election and the tax laws that will come into effect. 2 of them especially, because 2 are already in operation from January the 1st. And the man that has granted perhaps some of the longest interviews, answered so many questions, done multiple explanations and explainers on same issues over and over. I was interviewing him one day. I said, welcome to the world of politics, the tax version, in that sense. Well, Taiwo Oyedele is our guest. He's with us right here in our Lagos studio. He is the Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy, Mr. Oyedele. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you, Inni. Thank you,
I have to say your name has been mentioned many times before you got here.
Yeah,
we are discussing security, we discuss tax. We're discussing politics and we discuss tax. So it's good to...
when we were on the morning, I told him, welcome to Politics or Tax. So this is where we are. So we're talking before we come live that when it comes to anything that has to do with touching people's money, people will naturally agitate. It may not. I don't think it's a Nigerian problem. Perhaps it's exacerbated because we already have a trust deficit problem. But we're going to give you like 5 to 7 minutes to build a bit of a case in terms of what is out there, what is expected, especially for maybe individuals, but more importantly for SMEs. Before we talk to the issues of misconception, the gazette issues, all the things that people want us to talk about. So let's build from them, sorry, Dale.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're right. I think tax issues are usually delicate anywhere in the world because nobody is excited paying taxes. So if you now add on top of that the low level of trust, add on top of it still is the low level of tax knowledge and awareness. I think relatively most Nigerians are clueless about tax compared to other countries. So the combination of those factors had meant that this was a lot more difficult than it needed to be. So when you think about what problem are we trying to solve, because they say if it's not broken, don't fix it. The tax system in Nigeria was completely broken. We're taxing our poorer citizens. People will say, how about accountability? And I say, well, if I was paying 10,000 naira before, and I'm not sure about accountability, and they say pay 6,000, why am I fighting the 6,000, right? So we're taxing our poorest people. We're taxing very small businesses, people that were just hustling. We have all manner of taxes, informal taxes, illegal taxes. Officially, you see in one of the slides, we have over 60 different taxes and levies, federal, state, local government, that small businesses are supposed to pay. Then you have these all manner of taxes on capital and investment. So you want to grow, so you need investment, then you put tax on it before the person has even started doing the business. We also have issues to do with how we even collect the taxes. The process is complex, and the process is also corrupt. I had the opportunity, which I think was maybe by design, that I shared the fiscal policy roundtable of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group. In 2020, I think it was, we did a national study on tax perception across Nigeria. And only 17% of Nigerian adults believe they should pay their taxes, and that evasion is wrong and punishable. 83% will do anything but pay. So when we asked them why, number one reason they gave is they said they don't trust government. Number two, they said, what do we get for the taxes we pay? Number three, they said, even when we want to pay, the process is complex and corrupt. 2 in 3 adults said they were asked to pay a bribe in the process of wanting to pay their taxes. So these are not issues you continue to pray about. You need to do something about it. And thank God we have a president who is bold enough to say, let's solve the problems once and for all. So this was not just an incremental reform, it's a transformation and it's a reset to ensure that our most vulnerable citizens don't carry the burden of tax that they have been carrying, to ensure that small businesses get relief. Exemption now is up to 100 million turnover a year. You have a small company, you will not pay corporate tax. You will not have to charge VAT, no withholding tax. Most of your employees will be earning less than 100,000 a month. They will not have to pay tax. So, like, if this is not a good reform, I don't know what else should be a good reform. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with a lot of misinformation. We think some of them are based on people who don't fully understand it. That's why we keep explaining, so that hopefully when they understand, they'll do the right thing. But of course, we can't run away from the fact that there are people who they don't care. Even when they understand it, they still don't want to agree for whatever reasons. Some of them are beneficiaries of the status quo. They rather continue to benefit at the expense of society than for us to fix that problem for the whole of the system. And that's not the way to grow an economy. That's not the way to ensure there's shared prosperity and progress in our communities. So you see some of the exemptions for small businesses that will benefit. And these are the people who employ the most Nigerians. Imagine that you enable small businesses and each one of them just hire one more person. You're talking about tens of millions of jobs. And any amount of money that they make, they spend it on their household. One of the very important things that we need to look forward to next year is that for about 98% of all workers, private and public sector, they would either see their PAYE, that's pay as you earn tax, go away completely or a drop. So that's more disposable income. On the other hand, what is it that they spend money on? Mostly on food, education, health, transportation, and shelter by way of rent. We remove the VAT on those items so that those things become more affordable. So you have more disposable income, you have more affordable basic consumption, life just becomes a lot easier and more bearable for you. And so those are the things we're looking forward to for next year. And we believe that anyone who really has taken the time to look at the details will know that this is good for us. Not sentiment, not emotions. We believe that if we make policies based on sentiment and emotion, we're not making policies. We're just gambling. If you really want good results, use data, be objective, be transparent, and be honest with the people. That's what we've been trying to do.
Let's stay with your slides for a moment before we come to the big issues around this gazetting controversy, which I know a lot of people are itching to hear. I'm sure you've spoken about it time and again, which has to do with myths, misinformation, and facts. If we can get that slide, it's the common myths and the facts available. Maybe you can speak to a few of them. I think there are about 10 of them here, which is quite important for people to be aware of.
Yeah, there actually more than, there are so many. There are more than
you just
10. We just
10.
put 10, yeah. So one of it is people think that government would debit their bank account from next year. And how they even came up with that, I have no idea, because the tax ID that you need to put into your account, if you are using your account for business or to earn income, was something that was introduced in 2020. So which means it's not even new. It's been there for over 5 years. So if government wanted to use that to debit your bank account, they would have been doing it since 5 years ago. They won't need a new law to do that. There's also the one where people say, remittances from abroad, government will tax it. Okay, so it's actually the opposite. In the current law, it says you are liable to tax on your income earned within or outside Nigeria, brought in, received in, accruing in, or deriving in Nigeria. That's what we have currently. Under the new law, we remove brought into and received in. So in fact, it's more clarity for diaspora Nigerians to know that when you send money, there's no tax on it. But of course, if you live abroad and you have a business in Nigeria, a property on which you earn income, you will pay tax like anybody else. There's also the one around pension. They say, oh, pensioners and retirees will be taxed. So this is when people read the law and they don't finish reading what they started reading. So there's what they call charging section in the law. So this is where you list everything you want to apply taxes on. And then as you go on, you have exemptions. So for example, we say pension is taxable. And then we go further and say any pension under the Pension Reform Act is not taxable. Why did we do that? It's because I can be an expatriate in Nigeria earning dollars, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I send my pension to my home country to put in my pension account. Why should Nigeria give you a tax deduction for that? Because that money is not available for... So that's the reason why you have to first tax the item, and then you exclude the ones you want to exempt. So anybody earning pension in Nigeria as a Nigerian, retirement benefits, severance, if somebody loses their employment, all those are exempted from taxes under the new law. We also have the one where people say that, government can take over your assets and then, without any court approvals. I say, if only they have read the current tax laws, the taxman does not need anybody other than the board chair, the head of the revenue service, to sign a warrant. But because before they can do that, your tax must be final and conclusive. That's the terminology.
What does that mean?
Okay, so it's final and conclusive if three things happen. Number one, if you refuse to file your returns, because we call it self-assessment, and the taxman then says, well, since you haven't filed your returns, based on the information I can find about you, I think you should pay 1 million naira, and they send it to you, and you completely ignore it. There's a 30-day period for you to respond. If you ignore it and that time elapses, that amount becomes final and conclusive. Number two, the taxman says you need to pay 1 million. You say, I don't agree. You go back and forth. That keeps going back and forth until the taxman says, I refuse to amend. It's called a notice of refusal to amend. Then that triggers an appeal process. You go to the tax appeal tribunal. When you are done there, you don't like the outcome, you go to the High Court. You don't like the outcome, you go to the Court of Appeal. You don't like the outcome, you go to the Supreme Court. The third possibility for final and conclusive is you have admitted yourself that you're only 1 million, but you refuse to pay. Under those three circumstances, when the process has been exhausted, the taxman, as we speak today, has the power to levy a warrant on any asset that you have. It could be your bank account, it could be your property, it could be your car. And when the taxman levies that warrant, the law says if he needs the help of the police must attend to the taxman, right? And then he holds on to it for 14 days. If you refuse to pay, he can now sell it. And the only condition is if it's immovable property, you need to go back to the court for a fresh court approval. So that process you have today. And in the new law, it has only strengthened it in favor of the taxpayer because the board chairman cannot just sign the warrant anymore. So then when people then come up and say, oh, this is going to make everything X, Y, Z, they don't reference the law, they don't want to, they just make up those things completely. So that's also a lot of misinformation.
So sorry for coming, my colleagues were coming. So we're saying now, what you're saying with the new law, I think that's section 61 or so, I can't remember the exact section.
Yeah, of the Nigerian Tax Admin Act.
The Administration Act, saying that it's not as if the taxman will just come take your property for whatever reason. There's a process that can even lead up to Supreme Court.
Yes, yes.
Before the taxman can swoop in to say, okay, we have exhausted all legitimate process, then we can now do what the law says. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. And that's not unique to Nigeria. So like I said, we have it in the current laws. We have it in the new law. We have it everywhere in the world. You can't make the taxman powerless because all that you just need to do is to say, well, I'm winning 1 million, so what? Like, and that's
what will you do about it?
What will you do about it? All of us, we decide not to pay tax, right?
Ms. Oyedele, I want you to, I know you've said this a lot of times, you do it on X and all of that, but I want you to categorically state some of those very simple daily worries of a lot of Nigerians. I've heard conversations that, oh, now from the 1st of January, if I'm transferring money or I'm gifting someone or I'm receiving a gift, please just put it there, gift. If not, your money. So I want you to state those limits. When does it become an amount or value of interest? When do you get the attention of the banks, of the authority, of the taxman and all of that? What gets their attention? I mean, let's simplify it for the everyday people, not the big guys now, because, I mean, from what I see, you have a lot of exemptions for the small guys, but those are the guys fighting you the most. So let's itemize these things that affect the normal people who are most afraid of this change.
Yeah, so for the normal people, there is really nothing to be afraid of because the protection they didn't have before, the new law is bringing that protection. Number one of it is the tax ombudsman. Beyond that, the threshold for exemption is higher. So if you're an employee, around ₦1 million, 100,000 naira a month, you don't pay tax. When you are even above that, up to about 2 million naira a month, your taxes will drop. Now, the employer would have presented that information to the taxman. So why would the taxman be interested in looking for an extra 50,000 when the process can take 10 years to establish? You know, many people may not remember because you will really struggle to find when the taxman has used that power before in Nigeria. The one I remember was actually NEPA in those days. Do you know that NEPA NEPA deducted withholding tax on their contractors and VAT, and they didn't remit it to the FRS. I think the amount accumulated to like over 6 billion when Naira was still very strong. So the FRS went through this whole process, and it became final and conclusive. NEPA said, but we don't have money to pay. So FRS got the injunction of the court, and they took over their property in Awolowo Road. So that FRS office in Awolowo Road today was taken over from NEPA. Really? When the NEPA guys were living there, they damaged everything because they were very angry. So this is more government to government. So, but do you think they would have gone through that process to collect 1,000 naira or 1 million naira? No. So while I'm not encouraging anybody to evade taxes, there's no taxman in the world that has the capacity to go after everyone. So therefore, if I have limited capacity, what do? I go after the highest yield. Where can I get 1 billion naira? Where can I get 100 million naira? So, like you said, the people that are fighting us the most are the people who don't have 1 million in their bank account. You know that the NDIC said 98% of bank holders in Nigeria can't boast of 500K in their bank account. Those are the people fighting. So I think something we underestimated in this reform, we said the current system is regressive, taxing the vulnerable more. Let's make it progressive. In fact, there was one of our meetings where we're saying it's going to be hard for these rich people to go out and be protesting because they don't want people to know that they are rich. We underestimated how these guys can manipulate the average person to fight the fight on their behalf, even against their own interests. That was what played out, and it's totally unbelievable. There are content creators who admitted they make up to $10,000 a month. They don't want to pay tax. You think they will go and create a content that says they want to tax $10,000 a month? No. They say they're going to debit your bank account. So you can help them fight.
Debit your 5,000 naira.
You can help them fight the reform, you know. So anyway, nobody will debit your account. Any amount of money you transfer, whether it's 1 billion, whether it's 1,000, it doesn't matter how you describe it, nobody will debit your bank account. At the end of the year, you tell the government yourself, you know the amount that is your income, you know the one that is not your income. So you tell the government, this is my income and here is the tax. If you're exempted, you don't need to pay any tax. Just say this is my income and I'm exempted from tax. So it's a very simple process that we're even simplifying even further. Now, if you run a small business, this is even one of the biggest benefits of the tax reform. If you run a small business as a sole proprietor, as an enterprise, or you're just hustling, you don't even have a name for the business, you just hustle. Today, there are all manners of levies and taxes. Under this new tax law, we've developed two instruments. One, the Constitution says the center cannot dictate to the state and local governments. So we then drafted, along with the Joint Revenue Board, we drafted a tax harmonization law for subnational. Do you know, I haven't seen this kind of speed before. They're enacting it very fast. Ekiti State started. We have Zamfara, we have Anambra, we have Kano, and I think even just yesterday now we have another state as well. Lagos State has promised to do their own. In addition to that, we have developed what we call a presumptive tax regime. In that presumptive tax regime, we said if your annual income turnover is 12 million or less, you have no capacity to pay tax because that 12 million is not the money you can spend, right? That's turnover. You need to cover cost of sales, other expenses. And then we went further because we don't want the tax officer making that judgment. We went further and listed certain businesses that cannot make money. Vulcanizers, somebody is roasting corn by the roadside. You know, there's some businesses where if you have customers for 24 hours, and you manage not to sleep, you are still a poor person. So those ones are listed specifically. What we are planning to do is for them to get an exemption, tax exemption stickers, so nobody will bother them. So if you're thinking about a reform that really is interested in the most vulnerable, because they're usually not at the table when people are formulating policies, we haven't catered for them for so long until now. Unfortunately, they don't have the voice on social media to say we like this reform. And that is why we believe that the right thing to do is to press forward until there's any reason to do otherwise.
You know, I really don't envy you. Because
I'm not sure I envy myself.
you know, but definitely, I mean, you're absolutely spot on. Nobody wants their meager pay, you know, touched in any way, manner, shape, or form. But while I hear you about the state governments, I didn't mention governors, so I just said state governments. While I hear you about state governments, I want you to help us understand how to cooperate with the federal government, if that's the way to put it, as a people, in a way that whenever it seems like states are trying to enforce old laws, or even local government, you know, out and all those things are trying
local
to,
government boys.
you know, how do Nigerians intervene? I know you remember the struggle between VAT and sales tax and consumption tax between the federal government and the state government. Does that mean those ones are dead? Now, how do you know when you are being overtaxed? Because people are timid when it comes to all these, you know, levies and everything. They say we should just do it. The big boys may get the message, but the small boys may not.
Yeah.
You know, at the park. So how do we intervene as a people to, you know, stop these things? And when people are being cheated, how do the people know themselves that they're being cheated?
Yeah, excellent question. In those harmonization laws that the states are now domesticating, one of the provisions is to outlaw cash payment for taxes and also outlaw physical barriers, including roadblocks and wood with nails to collect taxes. So if you take out those very rudimentary Mongo Park days approach of collecting taxes, and you can't collect cash, you remove the incentive for people to be on the road, because a lot of those taxes they collect don't get to the government. So they have the personal incentive to continue to be there. So that's one thing from a structural point of view to address that problem. The other one, which I mentioned before, is the tax ombud. You didn't have that before, which means if you were not knowledgeable and you did not have the resources to hire lawyers and accountants, you're left with no choice but to negotiate. So this time around, there is a power of the states behind you. You have a tax friend that can defend you and can even take your case to court, and whatever the tax ombud does in the law is completely free of charge. So that is help on the way that we didn't have before. The other thing is, because the states are the one domesticating this harmonization law, they will own it. In addition to that, we had sent proposals to the National Assembly, and we're very grateful for the progress the bill is making to alter the Constitution, provide clarity as to taxing rights, and to limit the number of taxes that can be imposed by different levels of government. You know, people remember subsidy is gone as the one speech of Mr. President. That same speech, he said we must tackle multiplicity of taxes. It's killing the economy. And this reform is a bold step towards tackling that multiplicity of taxes in a way that it will be sustained. Not that you tackle it today and we introduce more taxes the day after.
I would like you to also speak. Now you've spoken to state governments. How about the associations? I heard you and Jeffrey the other day talking about, what's the name of that guy you both were talking about on the morning brief?
Okay, Baba Bayo.
Baba Bayo. You know, he belongs to an association. Association will collect money. For some of us who occasionally take buses, NURTW will collect taxes. At the end of the day, these things have their way, you know, of having their way. Are those also factored into the consideration, or the associations are exempted from these laws?
So it's part of what we're trying to address, but you can't call what they collect taxes. So we can't enact a law and put it there that this tax, because it's actually not a tax. It's just that they take advantage of the system to do what they do. For example, those who transport produce from the north to the south, some of them said they have a budget of between 500,000 to 700,000 just to bring yam to the south. Now, because you have some people who are employed by government to collect taxes on the road, other people come on the road as well. And all of it will add up. So if you say you outlaw cash collection and roadblocks for collecting taxes, then anybody you find is a criminal. Right, so that's a way of addressing it. And I think there's the commitment now from the subnational, because there's also a security dimension to it. The governors in their June Governors Forum meeting already adopted a resolution to see this through. So I think it's a problem that we can solve as a people. It's a problem for which we are already in the process of solving it. It won't be like you turn on the tap, right? It will take time. Like the Constitution will not be amended today, tomorrow. But I think if we follow through with this process, everybody will see this relief in the burden of taxes. The Nigerian people will pay less and government will collect more because you deal with the loss in transit that we currently experience.
All right, Mr. Oyedele, I certainly do have a whole lot I would have loved to ask. I mean,
so many, actually.
Yeah, because, I mean, it starts on the 1st of January, so what can we expect to start happening? How long can we wait for the tests and trials? Because, as you said, it will not just happen. Some states have still not, signed the harmonized one. But, I mean, we'll leave that. I know we can always call on you. It's going to be a very busy January for you.
Yeah,
so.
I can imagine by the end of January, people will see their net take-home pay would increase. That's one fantastic way.
And you have a bit of relief
of seeing that this is working. They'll see the price of basic consumption come down, and businesses will see more improvements in their profitability and cash flow.
And then
so the results will be visible.
All right.
Yes.
We certainly do hope so.
Say amen.
You don't believe in the Nigerian system.
That means that you have, now that you have a bit of time, go and sleep very well. Take care of yourself.
I don't think Mr. Oyedele can sleep.
I hope you let me sleep.
I don't think Mr. Oyedele can sleep. All right, Mr. Oyedele, Chairman, Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy. We still have a whole lot of conversations as we get into January, but thank you so much for coming out and being with us this evening.